Welcome to the Politics of Everything. I'm Amber Daines, your host and podcast producer. This is a half hour of power, a podcast dropping every week where I unpack the politics of everything, from money to motherhood, nutrition to narcissism, startups to secularism, the environment, quality, and much, much more. Our guests are seasoned in the field or topic of their choice, even if you've not heard of them yet. This is a non-partisan show. So while I love exploring varied views and get a buzz from a healthy debate of ideas, this is not a purely blue, white, green program. Please subscribe, tune in and enjoy the politics of everything. Amanda Rose was an early guest on this show. In fact, episode 95, The Politics of Ambition, and that was some 6 years ago. Since then, much has evolved for her and those that she works with and how she operates to create impact in business communities. Today, Amanda is an advocate for women in business, a media commentator, keynote speaker, and an entrepreneur. She appears regularly on programs such as Sunrise and SkyNews, contributes through columns in the AFR, the Daily Telegraph and SmartCompany, and she applies compassionate, critical thinking to disseminate complex issues affecting everyday Australians. Because she's not busy enough doing that, she's also the founder and CEO of Entrepreneurial and Small Business Women Australia and the founder and CEO of Western Sydney Women. She founded and sold Business Women Media, the first platform of its kind to advocate for small business women. As a mentor and advisor to women in executives and roles and small businesses, Amanda is known for her strategic, practical approach to leadership and business. She works with a whole bunch of different clients, including CPA Australia, UTS, ANZ, Deloitte, and has worked with corporates as well. She's described as the glue connecting communities, government and business on critical infrastructure and social impact initiatives, and I totally agree with that. She's an external committee member for Western Sydney University's Creative Leadership degree and a small business mentor for the Australian Government's Boosting Female Founders Initiative. She has a host of qualifications and she's currently studying a Masters of Business Law at Sydney University. So today we're chatting about ethical entrepreneurship, and I warmly welcome Amanda back to the Politics of Everything.
Hello.
Podcasting remotely can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. Since day one of the Politics of Everything, I have relied on Zencastr's all-in-one solution to make the process quick and painless, the way it should be for those of us who just love great content and want to get our ideas out into the world. If you know me, I'm obsessed with quality in terms of my guests, my sound, and everything about my show has to be great the first time. I'm time poor. It's so easy to use Zencastr. I'm not tech savvy and you don't need to be either. There's nothing to download. Just click on the link and off we go. Zencastr is all about making your podcasting experience easy, and with everything from local recording to automatic post-productions now in their toolkit, you don't have to leave your browser to get that episode done, and done fast. I have a special offer for you, and hopefully you can experience what I have with Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my VIP code, The Politics of Everything, all lowercase and one word, to get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. How good is that? I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Hello. It's been a while between podcasts, and so I'm not going to ask you my usual question, what did you want to be as a kid? Because we've done that a number of years ago, but I will ask you to kind of summarize what you actually do for everybody in 2024, because you wear millions of hats, which I've alluded to in that intro, but how would you describe your key focus at the moment?
I would say that I advocate and equip. So advocate for small business owners, women, whoever it is that feel that they're not being heard, with a focus on those two areas in particular, and then equip them through different means to be able to survive and thrive in today's world.
I love it. And I think you do that really well. One definition of the topic today I saw was ethical entrepreneurship is beyond the bottom line and aims to make a positive impact in the world. For example, by embracing more sustainable practices, entrepreneurs can contribute to environmental preservation and resource conservation. I'm sure it goes beyond that. How would you describe ethical entrepreneurship in your view? And why is it something that you were interested to chat about today on this podcast?
So it can be different for different people depending on their core values. But I feel that in today's society, there are so many factors and forces, I would say, that are pulling you away from what it is that you truly believe and what you really stand for. And it's so important for people to be reminded and also assisted in sticking to what they believe in. So doing the right thing. And it can be very difficult when you have money in front of you or you have opportunity in front of you to say, is this the right thing to do for, my business, which I'm trying to build?
Yeah, I think that's the challenge for lots of people. And as you mentioned, money can be an amazing empower of people, but it also can be a detractor sometimes. Why do you think ethics get challenged for entrepreneurs, perhaps more than other people in business? Because, making money is not always the cause of root evil, but there is a saying around that. But are there some examples which you think bring to life, I guess, some of these challenges for entrepreneurs particularly?
Look, a lot of them, and I work with so many, they fear that if they don't have the funds, they won't be able to achieve what is they want to achieve. And a lot of them, ethical ones, have good purpose, like they're purpose driven. They want to either help the environment, help individuals, or they've got a solution that will work with people. And we've been pretty much conditioned that you need to bend and tweak in order to appease whoever it is that has the funds, whether it's a bank, whether it's a VC, whether it's another form. But there's a big shift happening where the society and where there are platforms like virtual that allow an entrepreneur to go out and say, you know what, I'm going to take control of my narrative and what I stand for, and then raise funds that way. And it's so important because what can happen is that people that have a lot of money can start to dictate what you should and shouldn't be doing in your business. And that kind of defeats the purpose of the ethical entrepreneur that usually started their business because they didn't like the way things were done in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess some of the challenge, if you're an early stage entrepreneur and you don't have cash behind you, is
Mm.
that you kind of have to make, I guess, compromises, if not sacrifices, to get to where you want to be. Is there any sort of room for that kind of, I guess, that levity where you kind of go, well, I'll keep taking this particular path until I'm in a position where maybe I can buy back that equity in my business, or I don't need VC funding, or I don't need to have a co-founder who maybe I don't necessarily agree with, but they bring some great things to the table. Like, how do you, I guess, not be too
Navigate.
purist about it? I guess it's the purist thing. It's like, you know what I mean?
Well, you can't compromise on your values. That is dead set. Number one, if you want to be an ethical entrepreneur, you cannot compromise on your values. Now, that might mean that your journey takes 5 to 10 years longer than someone else. It might not. But the thing is, when you stand firm on what you believe and who you are, it will actually filter out those people that have, a motive that doesn't, that's disingenuous or whatever it is. And what will it'll do, open the doors and the way for you to find the people that agree with you. Find people with the same values. We say this in every other area of life. Work with the people that have the same values. Have friends with the same values. It's the same with your business. So the more you say no to the wrong things, the more the right things will be in your path.
Yeah, I've personally experienced that. I suppose the challenge is, and it's been, sometimes you don't learn these things until you have the experience. It's the hot plate theory. I can tell you that hot plate's hot, but Amanda, until you put your hand on it and burn your hand, you're not probably going to believe me in the same way. I've worked with people that I thought were on the same page and perhaps haven't been, and that's even before I was an entrepreneur, but obviously since then as well. And it's a tough lesson. But sometimes, you kick yourself and you don't always know, because particularly I think with things like social media, people present one way and sometimes are not the same. So how do you kind of make that sort of distinction? Because I must admit, I'm a grown woman and I've been fooled before.
Oh, yeah, let me tell you, there are master manipulators out there. Look, you go with your instincts. Often we kind of ignore them at the very, very beginning and we think, oh, we're just being, paranoid, or this is ridiculous. Do your research. Actually treat it, we don't do references. We don't get into the deep dive that we need to when it comes to our businesses. So speak to people that's worked with them. What have been their decisions? Get to know them. You need to see them and how they've handled difficult situations. What are their responses to what's happening maybe in the world, maybe in politics, whatever it is that you think, how would you handle this situation? Because that says a lot about their character. So you really need to find out the character of people. And sometimes when you're anxious and you need money or you need connections or you want to grow your business, we can skip a few steps and the shiny new object can actually end up being poison.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that at some point as well.
Yes.
Some successful leaders dismiss this and sort of say, well, business ethics are great, but it's sort of a form of modern virtue signaling. It's, utopia, if you like. How would you challenge that?
Look, it's only virtue signaling if you're telling everyone you're doing it, right? So true ethical business leaders or business leaders with a good core value system and entrepreneurs with that core value system, they just apply it in the decisions that they make. So it's who they are. It's how they breathe. It's how they think. If they're having to tell everyone how wonderful they are and all the wonderful decisions they're making, then that's virtue signaling. It is hot at the moment. A lot of people are doing it, but you just scratch a little bit. You just scratch a little bit, and you'll find out. Look, a classic case would be the companies that say that they're highly diverse, and a lot of their collateral is all these diverse people, and then you look at the board, and they're all the same.
Exactly.
So it's not hard to dig a little deeper in that capacity, but it's not virtue signaling. And I think people that say business is no place for ethics are the type of people you want to stay away from.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting. I'm obviously my business is around communication, and I'm very good at analysing people's communication styles and all those pieces as well. But one thing I've observed is sometimes when you're overly stating something, particularly through LinkedIn or other sort of platforms, it's often the thing you're not, if that makes sense. So if you keep saying, I'm so strategic and using strategic all the time, it's like, well, are you, or you just want me to think you are? Prove it. I need proof points. I need that scratching of the surface.
That's right. And that's what's interesting. So a lot of people aren't, look, the fruits of their labour. So let's look at what they've done. Who are they? What hard work have they put in? Who have they worked with? And that takes time. So often when people don't have the credibility, they don't have the track record, and they're just spruiking one-liners, that's a red flag. So go back and see the journey of that person, and you'll see a lot about them that you probably would have missed if you were just reading that one-liner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is with social media, you notice, and of course, people, entrepreneurs, we all have multiple businesses. You've done that as well. I've had agencies and bought and sold as well. But sometimes people reinvent themselves a lot, and that always worries me a bit. Does that make sense? If you can't join the dots, I'm like, hang on a second. 1 minute you're like a yoga guru. Next minute you're a corporate mindset expert. Like, but you've just drawn a line in the sand, and gone, I don't do that anymore.
It depends on what their agenda is. Often when people jump around, what they're looking for is cash. So they're looking for a formula of something that'll work. You see this a lot with cults. If you watch a lot of documentaries, they're very similar. It's all about getting people to sign up to pay for it. Business coaches are very similar. So you just sign up, you pay me money, and I'll show you how to make money when you actually made money from people signing up. So
I know.
Really,
isn't that the irony of the whole thing? Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that would sound like something Amway would have done in the 80s.
Well, now they call it a lot of things. And the reality is you need to ask questions. And we need to get comfortable asking questions that are uncomfortable and get used to the fact that some people are going to be scratchy in return. So some people will get vicious in their response. Some people might go, yes, good question, and answer it honestly and give you connections and previous clients. They're the people that you should look into a bit further, and they're probably the right people. But if you ask questions and people don't want to answer them, or they're uncomfortable, or they're avoiding it, there you go. You've solved your problem straight away. You don't work with them, but they're everywhere.
And I think, how do you feel about things like testimonials, which I kind of take with a grain of salt in a way sometimes? I figure you're not going to put forward people that don't love you and, say great things, but how can you get that, I guess, that reference check piece, which I think is, different when you're employing someone, you can do that. But I think when you're working with someone, collaborating as an entrepreneur, that can be harder.
It can. And I think with testimonials, diversity of testimonials is usually a good sign. So you've got a very diverse mix of the type of people they've worked with, from whether it's industry or the type of person, because you know that they've been around and worked extensively. Also, reach out to the people. So if there's a name attached to the testimonial, even when you're dealing with someone, I always say, can I speak to 2 or 3 people that have worked with you, and get an understanding of what's your relationship with them, how long have you worked with them, what have you done. Then ask other people, do your homework. So if there is a testimonial, there should be more than just 1 or 2. A red flag is when there's only a couple. Look at them, contact them. What is it like working with these people? This is the type of level of investigation you should be doing when money's involved and your business is involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. How can ethics be seen as more than those externally espoused vision or mission statements, which you might see on a website or on socials? I think sometimes doing good and looking good are not the same thing in business, but, someone keeps sort of, pushing a message, you do start to believe them, even if you haven't necessarily had that experience. What do you sort of see around that sort of ethical, I guess, mismatch?
Oh, look, you see it in large companies all the time with their taglines or people with their vision statements. It's just the proof's in the pudding. So look at how they respond to difficult situations. Like a large company is a classic case of, okay, a difficult situation's come up, they've made a mistake. How did they handle that? Because it's not necessarily the mistake that's a problem with the business, it's how they respond to it. So if you're dealing with someone or a small business, an entrepreneur or someone with funding, ask the questions, show me the proof, what have you done? Now, if they are constantly telling you how wonderful they are, how they've donated their time for overseas charities and they've helped here and helped there, and you're thinking, well, okay, what are you covering up, right? So why is there a need for that? I actually like businesses that don't constantly tell everyone where they donate their time and their money. It says a lot. It means they want to do it because it's the right thing to do, not because they're trying to get some brand equity out in the marketplace. So again, dig deeper, look at the annual report, meet with the people, connect with them on LinkedIn, look at what they, where they speak, where they participate, what their language is, but especially look at how they handle difficult situations.
Yeah, I reckon, they say good times, everyone's, great, but hard times is where people are made or broken. I think in
Yes.
a crisis, that's often when you see, I guess the scaffolding might fall away a little bit. Is there a way in which, during tough times for yourself, for example, you might navigate your own ethical challenges? Because, I'm sure in business you've had plenty, but there's some sort of hard and fast rules that you stick by when you are dealing with your own, I guess, ethical approaches to tough times.
Oh, look, I don't budge. I'm unmovable with what I stand for, which really shocks a lot of people. So there are a lot of opportunities that I've passed on or they've said no to me because I won't budge. And that's fine. But what that does, it sets a tone in the marketplace that if you want A, go to Amanda. If you want B, go elsewhere.
Mm.
And the more I've done it over the years, the more defined and refined I am in the marketplace. But the people actually say, you know what, I actually know how to define who she is. She will say no to that, don't even bother. People that I know that have been, oh, can you approach Amanda for this? Don't bother, she'll say no. So that took a long time though, and that took a lot of yes
I was
and a lot
going
of
to
no.
say, I guess along the way, you probably had a few hardships and heartbreaks in business as well,
I had a lot of
because,
shocks of people's character,
yeah,
absolutely. And to this day, I'm still regularly disappointed by the character of people, and usually when money's involved.
yeah, I was going to say,
And yeah,
that's the
and
thing.
but it is. But the thing is, there are people out there that just chip away, get it done. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur for good, then be for good. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and you don't care how you get your money, that's a different group of people altogether. And they're the people that aren't even interested. They won't even be listening to this podcast because they have no interest in ethics whatsoever. It's more for those who feel like, oh, I'm not sure about this. If I say no, they won't like me, or this is a great opportunity, but my gut says, things are wrong, then say no. I've passed up, I would probably say millions of
Mm.
opportunity, millions of dollars worth of opportunity, which is fine. It doesn't faze me. But every now and then I think, wow, it is pretty tough out there. But I have met and worked with and connect with like-minded people and is very rewarding. It just takes time.
Yeah. Just on that point about the unethical, less ethical entrepreneurs out there wouldn't be listening to this, I have another theory. They might be sharing it and liking it, Amanda, so that they look
Oh my
ethical.
gosh.
I don't mean to be always the
That is so
naysayer.
true. That is so true. They would too. They go, this is a great podcast. We really
Amazing.
focus on ethics, everyone.
So, but hopefully, as long as people are listening, I
If that's you
kind of
right
don't
now,
mind.
you're a douche.
Absolutely. Who's your favorite ethical entrepreneur, and what values and, I guess, ideas do you love about them, or have you seen up close that you think, wow, there's someone we should, if not emulate, aspire to sort of be part of that sort of ilk, if you like?
Well, I'll say two. One I don't know personally and one I do know. So don't know, I'd say Canva co-founders because they do a lot of Well, firstly, they created something to help people. And secondly, they give away a lot of money to charities, but they don't tell everyone. So it kind of gets exposed through second, third hand communication channels. And that says a lot about a business that they're doing it for the business and to help people with their extra money. They're not holding on to it and trying to be up with the elite. For the one personally, I would say Kirsty Parks from Community Cafe Inc. It's someone who I've watched from the very beginning build a charity from scratch without knowing how to and make it, or for starters, it's successful. But the people she connects with, they just instantly stick to her and they grow. And it's been growing at a slow pace, but at a substantial, how could I say, ethical, long-lasting pace. And that means it will last. And I think that's what we need to learn, especially from the micro organisations that are going to potentially end up national, that they could license out because the processes and the core values of who they are, she just did not budge. She would not budge the whole time and would not give up on saying needs to happen for the community. So she put the people that she cares about first before anything else and would say no to anyone that she didn't believe in.
Which you would kind of expect if you're to go into that space, but I know firsthand that's not always the case in not-for-profits and charitable organisations, which is kind of like, yeah, I was going to say, ironically.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of corruption in a lot of industries, and a lot of people are under the impression if you're not-for-profit that you're doing the right thing. I'm sure people would be shocked that there are, like places out there that have, massive amounts of pokies are not-for-profit, sporting clubs are not-for-profit. So, we need to, I'm actually studying that right now, what is a not-for-profit and the loopholes that people go around. So I always say before you help a not-for-profit in any capacity, get to know the CEO, research them, because the fish rots from their head. So if they're bad and if they're making bad decisions, or if you're not liking where they stand ethically, you shouldn't be supporting anything under them.
Absolutely. Changing tack a little bit, your current favourite business tool app that you're loving, it's either saving you time, money, or just brain space. Can you share that with us?
Can I say Canva again?
You and about 30 other people on this show, but I understand why.
Well, only because I did graphic design. One of my many things I did in the early years, built websites from code. So I understand the pain of anything in graphic design and the need for speed and efficiency. What I like about it is that every single person on my team has the ability to use it, which means that things can be tweaked, changed, without having to go through just the single source of failure of one person.
What I've loved about Canva is that they've really evolved. I saw recently they're going to expand into working with actual graphic designers, people who actually, like you, have studied it or that's their business these days. So it's always been something that I guess most of us that are graphically challenged, if you like, could use. But now you're going to, they've sort of seen that there's an opportunity to work
there
with,
is.
Rather than sort of pricing them out and cutting them out, which I quite like. I think that's quite smart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very smart, especially those people that are doing that as well as other things, because these days you're not just a graphic designer.
No.
For a large company or large agency, you have to do lots of things.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Your biggest life lesson to date, and why has it been important to you?
Well, there are so many. I reckon we could do a podcast just on life lessons.
Yeah, we definitely could do that.
But I would say never doubt your first instinct about someone.
Yeah.
Never question it. And it doesn't mean, and this is the thing, it doesn't mean you don't have to know them or you don't have to work with them, but you need to know who they truly are, and then you can work with them accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would second that as well. And how do you define your own version of success, Amanda? You're obviously very successful in what you do, and you continue to work, I guess, in that way that's ethical. But for you, what does success look like personally?
For me, it's living a quiet life, financial independence, but achieving my goals and not the goals that other people have for me.
Yeah, I think that's great. And just a final takeaway message for us today on the politics of ethical entrepreneurship.
Don't budge from your core values. Go and find people that you're aligned to, and don't ever, ever, ever feel that you're alone, because there are other people out there that feel the exact same way you do. go and find them and build your own network if you need to.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to chat to you, Amanda. And of course, lots of pearls of wisdom in there as well. If you do want to find out more about Amanda Rose and her business opportunities, please do connect with her on the show notes. There will be some details. Until next time, take care. Thanks so much for listening today. If you've enjoyed the politics of everything, I thrive on your feedback. So please add a short review and share the podcast with your network through Apple, Spotify, and all the usual suspects. I'm always on the hunt for new and diverse guests, so if you or someone you know has a fresh idea you're busting to get out there, please email me at amber@amberdanes.com and my crew will get back to you very soon.